Hey, peace, peace. What's happening, everyone? Well, not deal with.
Recognize royalty. Recognize it. Recognize royalty. Gotta recognize it. Recognize royalty. Like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty.
I can feel.
Recognize royalty.
I can see.
Recognize royalty.
Now I recognize
Royalty.
royal to these eyes.
Royalty.
I can see.
Recognize royalty.
Hey, peace, peace once again. Thank y'all so much for stopping in to check out this video. I want to talk about this idea that I hear a lot of FBA people talking about, this idea of brain drain that's caused by Caribbean people when they leave their homeland to go somewhere else looking for better opportunities, especially economically. There claimed to be a brain drain on that country that they are leaving and a brain gain on the country that they are going to. And, because there's a brain drain on their homeland, FBA people, claim that what they're doing is a disservice to their home country and that they should stop this brain drain and go back to their homeland. And of course they are foundational Black Americans, so they count America as their homeland. And so my question is, do FBA ever leave their homeland? Or as they put it, do FBA ever flee their homeland for whatever reason? And when they flee their homeland, is there a brain drain on America when FBA leave the country? And my guess is yes, but you know how we do. I'm gonna throw it into ChatGPT just to see what it says and what comes back. The question I'm gonna ask is, what African American movements moved Blacks to Africa? Just focusing just on moving back to Africa. And I'm sure all of us know that since the beginning of time, Black people have been talking about going back to Africa, fleeing America and returning to Africa. So this is no surprise, or it shouldn't be a surprise to any of us, that FBA flee their homeland as well. And again, for whatever reason. But let's see what ChatGPT says about it. It says, several African American movements throughout history have promoted or facilitated the migration of Black people to Africa. These movements were rooted in ideas of Pan-Africanism, self-determination, escape from racism, and reconnecting with ancestral homelands. Here are some key ones. Where FBA movement ideas are rooted around Pan-Africanism, self-determination, escape from racism, and reconnecting with ancestral homelands. Caribbean people and other immigrants leave their homeland mainly for economic opportunities. They're just trying to find a way to feed their families. That's their main concern. FBA, as we just saw, has a lot of other reasons why they choose to leave their country. And I think those reasons that FBA chooses to leave their country kind of speaks to whether or not when they leave, it's brain drain. So what we're seeing really is that when African Americans leave America, they really are fleeing. They're fleeing white supremacy, racism. That's what they're really fleeing, and they have no intentions on returning, really. They flee. When Jamaicans leave, they're not fleeing. When Jamaicans leave, it's a benefit to Jamaica because, they send stuff back to Jamaica. And And that's what they intend on doing when Jamaicans leave. They intend on sending stuff back for their families and improving their families and communities. Not when FBA leave. When FBA leave, they flee. Yeah, but we'll talk about that a little more. So here are some key movements of African Americans fleeing America, their homeland. 1. American Colonization Society, ACS, in the early 1800s. It was founded in 1816. The goal was to resettle free African Americans in Africa. The outcome was that they helped to establish Liberia in 1822. While many African Americans were skeptical, seeing it as a way to remove free blacks, others went voluntarily. So Black Americans voluntarily fled America for Liberia. And, they went voluntarily. They fled voluntarily. And again, my question is, did that cause a brain drain on America? Did it cause a brain drain on America and a brain gain in Liberia? Not only did they flee America to go to Liberia, but they actually went to Liberia and colonized Liberia, right? I'm sure the Liberians or those natives in Liberia, in that part of Africa, didn't appreciate these FBAs coming in there and colonizing them. I'm sure they didn't appreciate that. Where they say Caribbean people go into a country and tether or leech off of them, FBA go into some other people's countries and colonize them. So you tell me which is worse, and which side of history would you rather be on? But a second example of FBA leaving America, the Back to America movement in the 19th and early 20th centuries, says a broad term encompassing various efforts encouraging African Americans to return to Africa. That's the Back to Africa movement. It's a broad term which encompasses various efforts that encourage African Americans to return to Africa. Leaders like Martin Delany and Henry Highland Garnett supported emigration in the 1800s, believing America would never fully accept Black people. So they felt America would never fully accept Black people, so they up and left. I don't know. Y'all tell me, FBA, was that a smart decision? Was that a wise decision on behalf of those people, those Black Americans that up and left because they said America would never fully accept Black people? If it was a good decision that they made, why haven't y'all made that decision? Why are you still here calling yourselves foundational? Why haven't y'all made that good decision that they made? And if it's a bad decision that they made, would that explain why there was no brain drain? Because those people that were there weren't very smart, so there wasn't much of a brain drain. When FBA left America, they caused a brain drain on Liberia. Yeah, brain drain on Liberia and a brain gain in America. There was a gain where they left and a drain where they got to. And that sounds like it's a part of the difference between Caribbeans when they migrate and FBA when they migrate. Another reason, or another movement, Marcus Garvey and the UNIA, Universal Negro Improvement Association, in the 1910s to the 1920s. It was founded by Marcus Garvey. The goal was to promote Black pride, economic independence, and repatriation to Africa. Black pride, economic independence, and repatriation to Africa. Now you tell me, are any of those a better reason than the reasons that Caribbean people up and leave their homeland? You left your foundational homeland to go to Africa out of Black pride. and to be economically independent. I don't see those as smart reasons to leave. And apparently most FBA don't either, because they're still here. So again, that may explain why there was no brain drain, because the people that left did not make a smart decision. That was not a smart decision. So I understand again why there was no brain drain. Marcus Garvey was famous for the Black Star Line, a shipping company intended to transport goods and people to Africa. Through the repatriation vision, though the repatriation vision didn't materialize fully, Garveyism deeply influenced Pan-Africanism. So, FBA were on board with Garvey, a Jamaican, but FBA were surely on board with him to flee America. And they did. And again, was there brain drain? Was there brain drain? A lot of people say Marcus scammed these Americans. But regardless of that, maybe because they were so scammable, there was no brain drain. No brain, no drain. But of course, I'm trolling a little bit. But the question does remain: was there brain drain, and why are y'all okay with that brain drain? Why is when you drain brain from America, it's okay? Why? The next one is the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad. While not always explicitly pushing physical repatriation, the NOI emphasized separation from white society and often spoke of Africa as a spiritual homeland and ideal refuge. Sure enough, the history of hip hop. I did the series about the history of hip hop, where we spoke about the fifth element of knowledge, and that it's strictly about Islam, and their whole thing, whether it was NOI, the Nation of Islam, or the 5% Nation, their whole thing is separating from America. They either want their own state or they want to create their own, but their main thing is separating or fleeing. And is that a more noble reason to flee? Because you're going with the NOI? Whatever the Nation of Islam's reasoning is for taking people to Africa? Is that more noble than what Caribbeans are doing, coming to America looking for economic opportunity? I think not. I don't think so. No. And all it's showing is that y'all flee for not very good reasons. FBA flee their homeland for some really silly reasons. Like this one, for example, like this NOI thing. What is the motivation for you to leave your country that you built to go with the Nation of Islam, a foreign religion, to a foreign country? That is, it's fleeing. Is it not fleeing? The next one is Pan-Africanism, especially post-World War II. It says not a single movement, but a philosophy and a set of efforts across the diaspora. Leaders like W.E.B. Du Bois eventually moved to Ghana in 1961. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana actively welcomed diaspora Africans back to Africa in the 1950s and 60s. So through Pan-Africanism, FBA have been fleeing America and going into Ghana. Fleeing America, going into wherever in Africa would take them. Is there a brain drain when they do that? Is there a brain drain? That's the question. I believe that if one teacher leaves Jamaica to come to America to teach, That's brain drain on Jamaica for one teacher. One. And so, this argument of, oh, there's just there's so many people leaving, that's why it's a brain drain. Y'all can make that argument if you want. But in my estimation, when individuals leave, given how skilled they are, and given the fact that they are leaving because they are skilled and they're invited because they're skilled, when individuals leave, it causes a brain drain on Jamaica. But apparently when individuals leave America, when individual Black Americans leave America, it doesn't cause a brain drain because these are not skilled people that are leaving America. These people are not leaving America to go somewhere else with a skill to earn money. They are leaving America for silly, nonsensical reasons that adds nothing to the economy of the place that they are going to. Nothing at all. So this excuse of, oh, there's just so many, that's why, no, we ain't falling for that. The reason you don't cause a brain drain is because you are not moving with a skill with an intention of utilizing that skill. Because, Caribbean people that leave their homeland, leave again, looking for economic opportunity. And these are people that are skilled. And they come here with a particular skill set that is sought after here. Most of the Caribbean people that come here are invited here because of their skills. When FBA flees or fled to Ghana, they weren't fleeing with any skills. They were pretty much just fleeing and then seeing what would happen when they got there. Most of them ain't like when they got there. When they got there, they was like, yo, let me go back home. And so I don't know how thought out it was. And so again, I don't know how much of a brain drain it was on America. Because the decision to move to Ghana under Pan-Africanism is a horrible decision. It doesn't take much brains, or it doesn't take people with brains to make that decision. So there must not have been brain drain. The only reason you could make fun of and tell people that they're doing a brain drain is if when you leave, there is no brain drain. That could be the only reason why you're telling people to stop leaving. Because you haven't stopped leaving America, so you must not think there's a brain drain. And it doesn't appear that there is much of any. The next one, African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem. African Americans who migrated to Israel starting in the late 1960s believe they are descendants of the ancient Israelites. Though not to Africa directly, they represent a diaspora migration motivated by spiritual and cultural identity. So y'all fled to Israel claiming to be Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem. Again, when Caribbean people leave their homeland to come to America, they are welcomed here because they're skilled people, and most of the time they are invited here to work. FBA aren't invited to Israel as Black Hebrews. I don't know how welcome they are in Israel as Black Hebrews. And again, we all know that this Black Hebrew idea is pseudo. So there can't be a brain drain when these people leave, can there? Is there a brain drain? I'm not so sure. Modern day repatriation and Ghana's year of return 2019. This is the last one that GPT speaks about. Probably the most important one. Ghana's year of return 2019. And it's still going on. Like it says the year of return, but people are still fleeing America to move to Ghana today. He says it sparked renewed interest in African Americans reconnecting with Africa. Ghana granted citizenship to dozens of African Americans and encouraged diaspora investment and migration. Granted citizenship to dozens of African Americans, dozens of them. I've said before that in my estimation, one Jamaican leaving and taking his skills with them is a brain drain on Jamaica. So I don't see why dozens of FBA leaving shouldn't cause a brain drain on America, unless they're just not skilled. FBA really, for the most part, don't want to leave America to go to Africa. They really don't. Because they have economic opportunity here. If there was no economic opportunity in America, trust that FBA would be leaving. They would. Just like they accuse Caribbean people of moving here for economic opportunity. If there was none here, they would leave. How do we know that? Because when there's no economic opportunity in their state, guess what they do? They leave their state. They don't stay there and fix it up. They leave. FBA have no problems leaving their home state. They fled the South in what has been known as the Great Migration, and there have been two Great Migrations. I did a show about entitled FBA Our Tethers Too, about the Great Migration. If you have a chance, please check out that video. But any chance FBA gets, they flee. So don't make them have you thinking FBA don't flee, because FBA flee at the drop of the dime. They leave their state to go to a different state for economic reasons, and they leave their country to go to another country for some silly reason. They think they're the original Israelites. They think they're the original Egyptians. They've moved to Egypt, claiming to be the original Egyptians. FBA flee their homeland, and for silly reasons. So, excuse me if I'm not impressed with your brain drain argument. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. You flee your home state for the same reason we flee our home country. And you flee your home country for reasons that we wouldn't flee our home country. And these are facts. Everybody leaves for economic reasons. Everybody leaves for economic reasons. When you flee your state for economic reasons, there's a brain drain on your state. And if you claim there's not, then you don't think very highly of yourself. But immigration causes a brain drain, whether it's international immigration or within states, there's still a brain drain. States don't love when people leave their states. No state wants that. So their argument also is that not enough African Americans leave America to cause a brain drain. Their argument is that the amount of Jamaicans that leave Jamaica is so large compared to the population of Jamaica that that's what creates the brain drain, right? And that the percentage of people, of Black Americans that leave America is so small that it doesn't have the effect that the Jamaican fleeing has. There's no brain drain. Where only, like, let's say 5,000 Americans will leave America every year. Something like 25,000 Jamaicans will leave Jamaica each year. And so because those Jamaican numbers are so big, that's where the brain drain is. And so, when 1,000 Americans leave America, it really doesn't cause much of a problem. Because, America gets to replace those people quite easily. And our population is so big that we don't really feel it. But Jamaica's population is so small When 25,000 leave a year, they definitely feel it. And if that's true, what I would say is that during the first Great Migration, and again, I spoke about this in the FBA Our Tethers 2 video, but during the first migration, which is a 30-year span between 1910 and 1940, close to 2 million African Americans, or FBA, left the South for the North. Almost 2 million within a 30-year span. And during that time, roughly about 50,000 Americans, or FBA, left the South every year. 50,000 left the South every year between 1910 and 1930. And no brain drain? No brain drain at all. I mean, if that doesn't cause a brain drain, 50,000? I know the South is big, but man, 50,000? During the second Great Migration, between 1940 and 1970, almost 5, or rather at least 5 million Black Americans moved from the South to the North. 5 million in a 30-year span. That's almost 170,000 a year. 170,000 people every year move from the South to the North. And this is 1940 to 1970, and still no brain drain on the South. Half of the population, half of the Negro population of the South moved from the South to the North during those 2 migrations. Half of the population. And still no brain drain? That's still not enough? America still was able to handle your loss? Why is that? How? Is it because for the most part they were uneducated? I mean, I'm asking, where is that brain drain? How is it that half of your population moved from down south and there's no brain drain? What does that say? Is there no effect to America because they stayed inside of America? That's your argument. There's no brain drain in America. There's no brain drain in America because they moved from the south of America to the north of America. But surely there had to be a drain on the south. Half of the population left and no drain on the south? Half of y'all. Like, you're telling me that if 1/2 of the population, of the Black population of one state, let's say 1/2 of the Black population of New York State moved out of New York, you're telling me there'll be no drain on New York? No brain drain? New York will just be able to draft people from other states, the drop of a hat? Are you that indispensable? Or rather, are you that dispensable? There must be a drain when half of the population of any geographic leaves. There must be an effect when half of any demographic group leaves. And if there's no effect on your state or states when half of y'all leave, what does that say about y'all? And, what's interesting is that after that 60-year period, after that 60-year period takes us up to the civil rights movement, and then it was after the civil rights movement that FBA started moving back down south. Right? So after half of their population moved from the south to the north, apparently the south started to improve to the point where FBA moved back. So I guess there was no brain drain. If half of your population left and the South started to improve after half of the FBA population left, what does that say about FBA? Because they had to move back. So y'all would have to answer those questions. Those are the questions y'all will have to answer for your silly brain drain concept. And if your argument is going to come down to when FBA leaves anywhere, there's no brain drain. That's the argument you're really banking on. Imagine that. That's the argument you're banking on. There's no effect on America when FBA leave. That's your argument. When half of the FBA population left the South, damn near 6 million, close to 7 million people left. When half of them left FBA, when half of them left the South to come north, there was no brain drain. And when thousands of them leave to go to Israel, acting like they're the original Israelites, there's no brain drain. When they return to Ghana, there's no brain drain. Regardless of the size, apparently, there's no brain drain. Regardless of how many FBA leave America, there's no brain drain. And let me say this as well. If 20%, let's say 20,000 Jamaicans leave Jamaica every year, is there a benefit to Jamaica? How does it benefit Jamaica when 20,000 of its people leave every year? And the main benefit to Jamaica is in the remittances that are sent home from those Jamaicans leaving Jamaica. Those remittances account for 20% of Jamaica's GDP. 20% of Jamaica's GDP. Right? And that 20,000 people accounts for less than 1% of the population. So the less than 1% of the population that leaves Jamaica accounts for 20% of Jamaica's GDP. What percent of Jamaica's GDP what percent of America's GDP does the people that leave America account for? When FBA leave America, do they still add to America's GDP? Because America is their homeland. Do they? My guess is no. And if it does, it's very minimal. It's not 20% of the GDP. It cannot be 20% of the GDP. FBA doesn't add 1% to America's GDP. If they add anything, it's about 1%. FBA adds about 1% to America's GDP. That's the FBA that stays in America. So the ones that leave ain't adding nothing. So leaving Jamaica has advantages for Jamaica, huge advantages. You know, the main advantages are the remittances that are sent. You know, these funds support family members with their education, their housing, healthcare. It also helps, you know, Jamaicans start small businesses, and it just helps with local consumption. It just helps them with their local economy, buying goods. It also, there's a lot of investment when Jamaicans leave Jamaica. they invest in real estate. Um, we buy and build homes in Jamaica. Um, we invest in Jamaica in terms of tourism and hospitality businesses. We start a lot of hospitality businesses in Jamaica, and we invest in them. Um, and we also invest in agriculture and a lot of agricultural startups. Um, we also have a lot of skills transfer and knowledge exchange. Jamaicans who live abroad return temporarily, sometimes permanently, with advanced skills, global experience, and business networks. Um, I mentioned tourism before. Uh, Diaspora Jamaicans in the diaspora or outside of Jamaica, are among the most loyal and frequent visitors to the island. And I'm still reading ChatGPT, and what ChatGPT sees as the advantages or benefits of Jamaicans leaving Jamaica. Um, we boost tourism revenue when we travel for family reunions, cultural festivals, or when we just retire. And many of us have dual residency. Um, Global influence and soft power. Jamaicans abroad in music, sports, academia raise the global profile of Jamaica. This increases cultural influence, brand recognition, and even policy support. For example, they lobby in the US or UK for Jamaican interests. And so, in summary, according to ChatGPT, while Jamaica loses talent, it gains billions in remittances, diaspora engagement, and global influence. And the key challenge is how to balance the benefits with the strategies to retain and return talent. So again, when Jamaicans leave Jamaica, they have Jamaica on their mind. So this talk of when Jamaicans leave, they don't think about Jamaica is nonsense. When Jamaicans leave Jamaica, Jamaica stays on their mind. And they're always investing back in Jamaica. And that cannot be said about FBA. When FBA leave America, they flee. They don't invest back in America because the reasons they're fleeing because of racism and white supremacy. They're fleeing because they don't like their country and they want to get out of it. The main reason FBA flee America is because they don't like America. Jamaicans leave Jamaica because they love Jamaica and they want to see it get better. And they go back all the time. Jamaicans visit Jamaica. Jamaicans that leave visit Jamaica all the time. That's not true for FBA that flee America. They never want to return. And that's a difference that is significant and cannot be downplayed. When foundational Black Americans leave America, there is no benefit to America unless, I guess there is a benefit to America. America gets to lose some people that America would probably rather not have. I mean, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me what the benefit is to America, to your homeland when y'all leave. We leave our homeland intending to benefit our homeland. Americans leave their homeland, their wonderful foundational homeland that they built, they leave it with no intentions of fixing it or benefiting it. None at all. But they built it. This is how we know they didn't build it. Because when they leave, they leave. They're done. And so to summarize, they can't say that leaving a state from one state to another. When FBA left the South, they left in droves, millions of them. This was probably the greatest migration ever. Over 100 and 70,000 every year left the South. Right, those southern states. 170,000 every year. And their claim is that there was no brain drain because they're only going from one state to another and America is still benefiting. I mean, okay. So as long as you know that Jamaica still benefits when Jamaicans leave. Jamaica benefits more when Jamaicans leave than America benefits when FBA moves from the south to the north. When FBA move from the south to the north, they do not add 20% to America's GDP. They do not. FBA do not add 20% to America's GDP. They don't. Like I said, I don't think they add over 1%. If 6 to 7 million FBA left southern states to go to northern states, and there was no drain on those northern states, that can only mean that FBA added no value to those southern states. That could be the only thing it means. If there's no drain on those southern states when half of the FBA population left, then the FBA population was adding no value to the South. So is that what y'all are saying? That can't be what y'all are saying. That cannot be what you're saying. I don't agree with that at all. But that's what y'all are saying when you want to make this stupid argument. You're making the claim that FBA adds no value, so when they leave, there's no loss. When they go from one state to another, there's no loss to the state. And when FBA leave the country, there's no loss to the country either. Nor is there a benefit to the country, because they don't benefit in terms of getting something back. They don't send back remittances. They don't invest in America. There's just no advantage when FBA, there are no benefits when FBA either leave their state or leave their country. That is the argument that FBA are making. That's your argument. That's not my argument. That's your brain drain argument. And y'all want to stick to it? Knock yourselves out. Is there a brain gain when FBA moved to Ghana searching for their ancestral homeland? Is there a brain gain for Ghana? Is there a brain gain for Israel when FBA moved to Israel claiming to be the original Black Hebrews? Is there a brain gain when FBA moved to anywhere in Africa or the Middle East with the NOI? Is there a brain gain to those places? I guess we'd have to ask those places. But I don't know. I don't know. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's no brain gain when they go to another country, no brain drain when they leave America. There's no brain drain when FBA leave, and there's no brain gain when FBA arrive. That's your argument. That's not my argument. That is your argument. And you apparently are sticking with it. So yeah, I think I've said enough. You know the routine. Hit the like button, subscribe, be notified, and we're going to catch you on the next one. Y'all be good. Blessings.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty.
I can feel,
Recognize royalty,
I can see.
recognize royalty,
Now I recognize
royalty,
royalty inside.
royalty.
I can see.
Recognize royalty.
I can love again.
Recognize royalty.
Now I recognize.
I recognize it.
Royalty.
I recognize the passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just the man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work? Working with the man, don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. As gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sins. Recognize your kings, overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it.
I can see.
Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty.
I can see.
I see it.
I can love again.
Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion.
Royalty.
Recognize royalty. Sunrise royally. Sitting on top of the world. I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Morally, we pop them things till we stop the impurity. We pop them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men when I went out fishing. I'll tell you why they rocked the boat. Cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? Choose the Jews' crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening. In the mix, I'm in some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back above me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too.
I can feel you.
I feel it.
I can see.
I can see it.
Now I recognize.
I recognize now.
Royal to these eyes.
Your royalty.
I can see.
I see it.
I can love again.
And I'm in love now.
Now I recognize.
I recognize your passion.
Royalty. Royalty.
Royalty.